Welcome to MN 501 Advanced Nursing Roles Seminar 3. During this seminar, you have the option of attending when the seminar is offered or listening at a later time. Attending the live seminar is recommended so you have the option to ask questions. You must engage in the seminar to receive credit. Students that do not attend the live seminar must listen to the recording and complete alternative assignments. This is graded. Upload your seminar document to the seminar tab. So first we're going to get started with educators, talk about what their role is in healthcare, and also discuss the role of the administrative MSN track. I'm going to go back here. In your notes section, you're going to find some web resource links to the AANC, where it provides you the domains and concepts of framework for ethical decision making. It's a review article that really kind of guides you through some of the content areas and talks about some important information to consider as you go into your role of educator or administrator. The educator's history, role, rank, and pedagogy or andragogy depends on the track of the educator, whether it be academia or clinical. Competencies and certifications also will be dependent upon the track that is chosen. Administrator roles, competencies often influence the nursing and patient care areas. Direct patient care, they provide leadership and need those leadership traits. Here are your key terms for this unit, Chapter 4. We are going to go over a couple of these that are going to be super crucial to your development as a mastered prepared nurse. So what is pedagogy and andragogy? Pedagogy is what the teacher does when they're teaching an adolescent or someone that is learning something new. So if we're teaching a new basic skill, a lot of times that is within the realm of pedagogy. Andragogy is the method used to teach adult learners. This activity involves knowledge acquisition, typically gained through experiences or problem solving. So your experiential learning, things that you have already done, we just add new knowledge to that to help enhance what you already have learned. The Boyer's model of scholarship is an academic model. It provides expanded definitions of scholarship, so it allows us as educators or those who are going into an education role to set expectations within your faculty role or to guide you in that role. There are several different tracks that you can take. You can take the academic track, or the clinical track. The clinical track is an appointment of faculty whose scholarship is to advance professional development in clinical areas. The didactic track is a theory or classroom track where the faculty member develops and implements course initiatives and outcomes for the purpose of schools. This can also be done within simulation and laboratory experiences. We're going to go on to rank here, the hierarchical structure of academic appointments. So when we're discussing rank, and this is primarily done in your academic settings, the rank is decided basically on degree and number of years in provision or scholarship. So you have to have all three in order to enhance your rank within the academic setting. A period of paid leave for faculty members to pursue scholarship interests can be done. Now, when we're considering any kind of period of paid leave, just remember that if you are not engaging in scholarship interest at that time, such as publications or development of curriculum, you may not be able to advance forward within that rank. Scholarship itself, according to the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, is defined as those activities used in teaching, research, and practice of nursing that can evolve into elements of standard of practice, new discovery, integration of practice, application of teaching, and skills. Tenure is a permanent academic appointment. This is typically a term you're going to hear in an academic setting. Usually the tenure lasts 6 to 7 years or the progression time. Tenure track is a structure used to indicate an educator has pursued further scholarship. Once granted, tenure provides the academic freedom to pursue any academic research without fear and job termination. A lot of the institutions are getting away from tenure due to this final statement here where tenure provides for academic freedom to pursue academic research without fear of termination. So that again is within our changing times. So make sure when you're evaluating your roles as a educator to determine whether you are going to work for an academic center or affiliate that will allow you to do your research and still continue to work and enhance your job. Okay, the history and historical figures of nursing education. So nursing has changed throughout the 18th century. Nurses were once taught in hospital settings as apprentices, so training happened hands-on. They were seen as free labor. After the U.S. Civil War, individuals like Florence Nightingale advocated for the standards of nursing practice and for formal education for nurses. Often nurses were white females who earned a diploma instead of a college degree. As the world of science advanced, nurses and educators recognized that they needed more specialized training. And during this time, the standards of practice and regulations were being developed for institutions. So our schools, our academia, our nursing schools. World War I was a period of time where we identified a need for training in areas such as national emergencies, which led to the start of Army schools and Army schools of nursing, VESIR training camps, technical schools that educated nursing students, while universities were for more of the leadership and administrative roles in the nursing departments. There's four types of programs, and we've kind of hit on those in previous units, but understand that the programs, the BSN, MSN, and the doctoral degree programs are typically accredited through two agencies, AACN or the CCNE. And those accrediting bodies typically allow the individual schools to function in their full capacities. So some of the challenges for the historical context of a nurse educator are the need to close practice gaps. That has been very difficult to do with pushback typically from facilities in general, so nursing facilities or organizations, anything that houses a medical team. Educator competencies are another issue where faculty have to know how to translate the science that they are learning and reading and put it into practice. Real world active experience really helps in this area. So once you've actually witnessed and done, you're able to teach a little easier. So some of the challenges that new educators are having if they've went right into an education role is that lack of experience at the bedside. I do not say don't do it, but there is a definite benefit of bedside nursing in the enhancement of being a educator and even an administrator. Classrooms are more diverse now, so we have to take into consideration the age of our people, our education level, so everyone will have different education backgrounds, life experiences that are previous and ongoing, and then our learning needs. So what they might look like, everyone has a learning need that has to be identified in order to provide the best evidence-based practice education throughout your classrooms. Education is a preparation type of role where the various degrees and qualifications are required and knowledge of teaching and learning theories are required. So during the programs, typically you will learn how to build curriculum, analyze the curriculum and data that is coming off of testing or exams, and then be able to implement learning theories for practice purposes. All levels of nursing require that practitioners educate others. So that is a level of nursing where you are providing scholarship. The educator's role and expectations. Teaching. Teaching's a mission that requires the educator to develop, implement, and evaluate. Courses, programs, students, and course objectives are part of teaching. Faculty may develop syllabus, they may develop learning outcomes, test writing, and methods of evaluation for identifying gaps or resources that are needed. I can testify to test writing. It is a difficult skill to learn uh, because there are so many backgrounds of education and learning experience. You have to be able to write test questions for understanding of all populations, even differences in languages. That can be challenging. Development, implementation, and evaluation of curriculum is primary, but service to community is very important also. When we're talking about school committees, joining a nursing program, policy committees, student government, or shared government within your facilities, local and state and national government committees also are important to join. At the master's level, you want to make sure that you're providing educational service and can include conducting any kind of work with like dissertation committees or thesis committees. Research and scholarship is important also for faculty. You want to look at fostering development and the ability to maintain an evidence-based practice. We're looking at disseminating key issues. So for me, when I did my doctoral degree, I did research on vitamin D, and my dissemination of my vitamin D research was publicated through a site and now is on the internet for people to read as new information. So it just adds to what is there, but also provides a different insight to research that has been done at the local level. And those dissemination of works, whether it be through your articles, poster at a conference, a talk like a TED Talk, any of that is dissemination of scholarship. Rank, tenure, and clinical tracks. So we kind of hit on what rank titles are and why they're given to faculty. So faculty are assigned these ranks at higher, they're based on the experience in teaching, service, and scholarship. Progression through rank occurs through periodic reviews. Each institution has its own guidelines for graduation through rank. A lot of the institutions, especially universities, they look at time in service, scholarly projects, and community service in order for you to qualify for rank and service within their institutions. Instructors teach and they may participate in scholarly writing through research and individual contributions also. Most of the time this is going to look like a book, articles, conference posters, and other activities that they just participate in or co-author. Assistant professors are typically they build their own research. This is usually an institution's objective for them. They might do dissertations or work with doctoral work students. An example is the vitamin D that I discussed. Continued research is also another way to gain your rank as assistant professor. An associate professor is clinical research based. Okay, so this is just the next level. As you can see, they increase. So clinical research projects, presentation findings, and peer-reviewed journals are very crucial to becoming an associate professor. Tenure is not offered at all universities or schools. So if you are looking for a facility or a school that offers tenure, you want to really investigate their offerings before accepting positions within those areas of teaching. So professors can ensure or are ensured faculty freedom. So we do have some government and stated laws that allow us freedom. So what does that mean? It is the freedom of inquiry, so asking questions. A lot of people are what I would call black and white or very within a box and they don't ask questions. They just read what's on the text and believe it. Sometimes it's good to have that critical thinking and ask those questions and just kind of get your own idea of what a concept should look like for you. Research, you got to research it. Is it accurate or not? And then you want to develop your teaching on different viewpoints. Always look at different viewpoints to make sure that you are identifying the best method without exclusion. Some institutions have required timeframes for achieving tenure. So, for instance, university that I know of has a 5-year limit to gain tenure, and then once that limit is up, you are not guaranteed a position within the next quarter of that institution's framework. So it is important that if you do look for a position as faculty somewhere, that you do consider what that might look like as far as building your portfolio into your tenure practice. Overall emphasis for this is to promote good and not do harm, basically. When we consider the clinical track of practice for faculty, it is a rank system. So typically that looks like who's been in the position longer or has more experience at that clinical site will be at highest rank. Sometimes they will have a ranking structure where people are identified by their rank, but it's very rare that you're going to see that. In addition, there will be some clinical designation criteria. So, for instance, you may see a faculty member that is strictly peri-op or simulation or acute care or public health. So it really does depend on the area of practice when you're thinking about the clinical track of nurse education. We've kind of discussed the two learning theories. So again, andragogy is Knoll's theory of education. It's a theory of adult learning. And typically this learning is experiential, so we want to build on adults' already known experience. And then pedagogy is the study of knowledge and skills imparted on a person, and it's a practice of teaching. So it is, like I said, students that are learning new knowledge. The NLN is a nurse educator supporter. So when we consider the NLN, it is the leading group currently for nursing core competencies, standards of practice. You can find all the information you need on this site or within their organization. If you join the NLN, you do get special opportunities to uh, participate in different activities. So they will give you free CEUs sometimes and other activities that are beneficial to scholarship and you can actually document. So with the NLN, they facilitate learning and learner development and socialization. This is for the nurse educator. They use assessment and evaluation criteria. So when you attend any of their conferences or activities, you will receive a test and they will give you CE most of the time. They do encourage participation in curriculum development and design evaluation of programs and program outcomes. As a nurse educator, you do function as a change agent. Whether you're in an academic setting or a clinical setting, your purpose is to facilitate professional development and clinical change within the environments. When you pursue continuous quality improvement and the educator role, that's going to look like this engagement and scholarship. Is also going to help you function within your academic or clinical environment. So the nurse educator competencies. If you look at this continuum here or this diagram, it gives you the 1 through 8 competencies. Starting with theory and principles, of course, you will learn in education all the different theorists who have built nursing curriculum and their concepts behind it. A lot of the curriculum has been developed on behavioral theory. So when you get into it, you're going to see it's going to be a lot of behavioral and psych theory that you are going to be reading, but it's crucial to understand in the development of curriculum. You're going to see that there's going to be sort of curriculum implementation projects that you're going to want to do, maybe thinking about maybe a flipped classroom or some other projects. Nursing practice will come into play. We're going to put it into practice. We're going to practice our curriculum builds, our testing on individuals within our environments. This is part of research and evidence to help with the building of new styles of education. Also, you're going to talk to people and collaborate with others to make these things work in different environments. So we're not going to focus just on one unit. You want to make sure that the units within your service lines are being protected as well. So there's some other things here, some ethical and legal concepts, some mentoring and evaluation, or monitoring and evaluation, and then of course management, leadership, and advocacy. As an MSN, you will be part of the leadership team. That means you're not necessarily called in a role of a leader, but you are a leader. You are still at that higher level of academic achievement and professional development. Nurse Educator Certificate. So I put 3 links on the PowerPoint that you can check out. Each one of these links identifies a type of testing that you can get as a nurse educator. So the CNE is for the academic educator. The CNECL is for your clinical nurse educator, someone that wants to work in acute care or community care or any of our facilities. And the CNEN is for that new nurse educator who just wants to get certified. And this is more of a basic um, clinical test that you can take. So let's talk about administrators. After completing this chapter, you'll be able to understand the role of senior nurse administrators in leading healthcare entities, articulate competencies demonstrated by effective nurse leaders, demonstrate knowledge of new nurse administrators, influence and practice, and then identify leadership traits. Here are your key terms again, and the one important organization on here is the American Organization of Nursing Leadership, formerly known as the American Organization of Nurse Executives. So you may see when you're looking for certification after completing your program for administration that both of these are available as tests to take. So don't get confused. They pretty much are the same organization. They're just named differently on some sites, and they still have the testing for both. Chief Nursing Officers. This person, or CNO, is responsible for the broad service that impacts the patient experience and the delivery of care. So they're really the head honcho in your acute care facilities a lot of times, or your outpatient centers who guide practice of nursing within the facility. So they look at outcomes, metrics, and they try to work with their management to stabilize any inadequate areas. Management is a collective body of conducting supervision in a business environment. So there is some debate about management and leadership, the differences between the two. I will say that you can be both or you can be one. So it just depends on the behavioral aspects of the manager, and we can get into that in conversation during seminar about how that looks for you in your environments and what have you had any managers that have provided a positive impact. Those are the people we would call leaders. Nurse executives, when we are talking about the executive track, that takes on a whole different behavior. So they take active leadership roles within the governing bodies. So these are senior leadership team members typically. They are the people that directly deal with the medical staff, so your physicians. They deal with the administration of the facilities that are not typically on site. They deal with other clinical leaders within the organization to help with structure, systems, and processes. Nursing leadership, these typically are recognized as clinical specialty individuals, but nursing leadership is important in all nursing services, whether it be academic or clinical. Most of the time, they're highly educated, highly experienced nurses who have a lot of knowledge to share. So that typically, they don't have to be in a role of leadership. It can be a bedside nurse or a staff nurse that holds 20 years of experience and can teach others within their unit. That's nursing leadership. Outcomes. Outcomes are indicated of development, so results and consequences. When we're considering outcomes, professional development is supported during your nursing education and through your academic partnerships. We look at outcomes as a need for supporting teaching, clinical site enhancements, process improvement, and for learning to ensure quality at the workforce level. Some regulatory standards that you probably think of right off the bat whenever you see regulatory standards is JCAHO, right? JCAHO is a big one here in Florida. I know that other states may have some accrediting bodies or agencies that come in and look for standards of practice within the clinical areas. These regulatory standards are set to help enhance the care of the patient. They are developed by the regulatory bodies, the State Board of Nursing, and other organizations, and they define our practice. So we really need to be following it because it is evidence-based, and that's what we want to do to protect our patients and even ourselves. Standard and scope of practice, when we're considering that, services are APRN, say a nurse practitioner is deemed competent to perform and undertake any advanced level of professional development. They provide professional care under licensure. So those standards of practice are written per state guidelines. So you have to follow them. Once you've gotten your F&P, then you will want to make sure that you follow up on your state licensure requirements and look at the laws within your state so that you are following that scope of practice and standard. Then we have what is transformational leadership. What is it? Well, it requires us to really motivate others. Motivation, and I think the biggest person, we just had a holiday, Martin Luther King. So Martin Luther King was a transformational leader. He actually motivated people to participate in creating and executing a vision, creating goals and objectives exerted by their force and influencing a new outcome. That's what a transformational leadership does. Value-based care, when we're considering value-based care, now you're going to hear this term in administration a lot. Clinical educators are going to hear this term, and even F&Ps who are running their own practices will hear this term. Focuses on balancing performance in areas of safety, clinical care, efficiency, and cost reduction. So we're going to be looking at what our provisions of clinical care are doing. Are we being effective and efficient? And what does it look like as a cost balance? So, of course, everything runs on money, right? So you want to consider what you can do to reduce the costs, not just for yourself, but for your clients and patients in order to run your best practices. All right, so a nurse executive or leader, there are some historical concepts here. A nursing leadership role, they were developed after regulatory agencies identified the nursing clinical specialties needed leadership standards and evaluation, and this is often directed by the Center of Medicaid and Medicare, the Joint Commission. Nurse executives typically direct delivery of nursing care and serve as a member of the hospital leadership. They must take active leadership roles in governing bodies, leadership teams, medical staff teams, and even management teams. Nurse leaders' titles vary dependent on scope of responsibility. For instance, a nurse manager may be just a unit-based manager. A director may serve over several units at one time. And then your CNO would be their boss. The CNO represents the whole leadership team. They often hold an active nursing license and postgraduate degree in business-related degrees. Their ability to negotiate strategic goals are driven by managing time and opportunities. Nurse executives practice in a variety of settings, so you're going to see them in the delivery of healthcare where they're maybe sitting up at the state level creating policy. They may be industry leaders, so their whole industry might look at them as a set point for them, and then legislation bodies. The CNO also utilizes leadership traits to create effective change. So they should be a transformational leader if they're working with growth of the times. The CNO also is responsible for organization functions. So a lot of times you're going to see your CNOs developing and putting together community events, things that the hospital organization wants for outreach programs. Their scope also reflects the amount of authority that is provided to them. In this, I want to just highlight, check out the Future of Nursing report if you haven't, the 2020-2023. This has been updated. Actually, we have a 2030 substandard copy that has come out. So if you look for the 2020-2023, it's going to reference the new one coming out, but I'm not sure all the materials there. So check that out for Future of Nursing. Scope and standard of practice. When we're considering our standard of practice, these are organizations that are involved in creating that. So the American Nurses Association is it establishes the practice for nursing administration, which is outlined in the expectations for professional performance and leadership responsibilities. These standards ensure that nurses lead, practice ethically, and promote evidence-based decision making. The American Credentialing Center, or Nurses Credentialing Center, we've kind of hit on this one several times, but of course, when we're thinking of acute care centers, we're looking at magnet recognition sometimes, and you will have to follow the framework from the ANCC in order to achieve the magnet recognition program standards. The magnet recognition program advances professionalism in nursing by promoting a culture of shared decision, autonomy, and continuous quality improvement for lifelong learning. This framework actually helps nurse leaders shape environments where nurses feel empowered and valued. One of the biggest pieces to employee retention when we're thinking administratively is you want to ensure that you have allowed your staff to have a framework where they feel empowered and valued. That is going to be huge on retention when we're looking at retention quality. The American Organization of Nursing Leadership is a partnership with Health Leadership Alliances. So the American Organization of Leadership is defined on its essential leadership goals, skills, abilities, and the effectiveness of how they lead their organization. A nurse executive competency includes core domains such as communication, leadership professionalism, and healthcare environments. Last unit, we talked about the core domains, and I showed you on the PowerPoint video during seminar the core domains. Those domains are standard of practice for the nurse executive and the nurse leader. They are also there as set as standards for nurses and nurse educators, so FNPs and nurse educators. So when we're considering those core domains, they are effective in leading teams and setting high quality of care for patients. Our leadership competencies, when we are considering what we need to do to become a leader, we want to look at advancing practice for one. Systems thinking is another. System thinking has to be recognized as pattern building. So we're looking at patterns of care, we're looking at them holistically. We're going to guide the practice within, say, if we're looking at a unit, within that unit with meaningful transformation by creating system thinking. So you want to build the system first and then educate on it. You want to also look at building effective leaders so that you have someone to be your succession plan. Okay, you don't want to be the person in a position where you don't have a succession plan. Make sure that you are managing change this way. This is part of systems thinking. So when we're looking at structured approaches, you're going to make sure that if anyone around you has the abilities or even want to learn what you are doing, teach it to them. This is going to build your practice. This is also considered professionalism. It helps demonstrate accountability, role modeling, and mentoring. While lifelong learning is shown through ongoing education and certification, we have to teach others regardless of whether we're in an education or role or not. Administrators also are responsible for building our nursing environments. Strategic management and nursing leadership, we considered this piece of it. This really involves the planning, guiding, and directing of nursing services. We're going to align our systems thinking with the organization's goals. Okay, we're going to look for the long-term vision of the organization. We're going to look at nursing leaders and how they're managing their units and what that might detail or impact the whole organization. They also develop action plans, allocate resources, and evaluate outcomes of any performance improvement projects. I'm going to skip over system thinking this part here and move to the next slide. Okay, we have a question that I'm going to ask during class. And then we are at the end here. So it says, ask me anything. You can't see the whole thing, but let me pull this over. Ask me anything. Drop your questions in the comments. So this is the end of Unit 3. You can send me an email if you have any questions on any of the material or your thoughts for the role, even if you have questions on the role or program that you are in. Have a good day.